Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Our first item of business is to talk about two of our athletes of the month. Who's going to do that?
I am happy to do
You're
that.
doing that? Okay.
So we are thrilled this evening to be able to celebrate two of our extraordinary student athletes from Beech Grove High School for our Alfred Insurance Students of the Month, Athletes of the Month. First off, we are going to ask Mr. Cam Brown to come up, and we have some things to say about Cam and just a little award to be able to give Cam. And Wick does as well. So fantastic, because that's great. I was kind of thinking I was going to see here Mr. No worries, this is fabulous. I thought Mr. Daniel was going to be here, and when I didn't see him in the audience, I just sort of said I would be happy to do this. So I'm going to turn it on over then to Coach, who's going to do this. But let me just tell everyone that I absolutely love Cam, and I absolutely love Malone. So our wonderful student athletes who, honestly, what they do on the field is just next level, but who they are as human beings means even more. So yeah, we just love these kids a lot. So very, very good. Now, Coach, you can take it from there. Sorry, that was the most awkward moment of my life.
So it is an honor to be up here to present this award to Cam. I've had the privilege of coaching Cam in some form of capacity for the last 6 years. It's been an incredible journey watching him grow from kind of the little ugly, annoying 13-year-old to being the handsome and actually well-driven and motivated and upward trajectory young man than what he is now today. We actually just had an opportunity to speak on his behalf last night as well at our baseball awards, kind of sharing some stuff from that last night. Cam was the recipient of our Cy Young Award, which was our Best Pitcher of the Year award. He was also awarded our Most Valuable Player of the Year award. And a couple of things that really played into factor with his MVP selection that we did for this year. Not only do we look at the MVP as someone who's the most outstanding one that we saw on the field on a consistent level, but there were some things that took place this year that really made Cam stand out over everybody else. And there's one situation that I didn't get to last night, and I apologize for this, but there was a practice over the tournament run where there was an underclassman during the practice that was struggling. And struggling after every repetition, really bad body language, and Cam intentionally stopped practice and signaled for me to hold on for a minute for him to go over and talk to the kid and show him what was going on and what he was supposed to be doing. I didn't ask him to do that, and I have no idea what was said, but whatever was said was probably the most mature thing that I've ever seen from a kid at that age to take charge and put the arms around an underclassman. So that to me really stood out. And I can stand up here and I can talk for a really long time about the things that Cam has done for me as an individual as well as our program. But to kind of wrap things up, I just want to say that it is an honor to be able to present this to him. This is the one on the left-hand side. I guess I have to learn how to read. We got Cam Brown. It's our Alfred Insurance Athlete of the Month.
I know he's a good speaker, and I typed something up. Okay, so I have Sweet Malone here.
Mrs. Farrell, would you introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry. I'm Casey Farrell, so I'm the head softball coach here. I also am a special ed teacher at the middle school. I have Malone Moore here. She's a junior. Oh, she's a senior now. She was our pitcher, our ace pitcher this year, but, sometimes we can get her off the mound. She plays second for us and first base. She just likes to have a little fun at really any other position. But Dr. Hammock, I wanted to thank you. Jake and I wanted to thank you for coming to our games, especially in the postseason when it's like, super meaningful, and taking the drive to Jasper. That was incredible. So thank you for that. So Malone Moore had an incredible month of May and an overall season to remember. She has grown mentally and has matured over the past year to lead the Lady Hornets on the mound and in the box to historical records. She pitched an outstanding sectional championship game and an even better regional championship game, leading the team to semi-state that marked the first ever in school history. The sectional game was very exciting. We've been waiting for that one for a long time. But the regional game, that was a feeling that I don't think that I'll ever forget. I remember I couldn't be in the dugout that day, so I was on the outside. I had just had a baby, the first day of tryouts actually, so Coach Moore and my other coaches took over. So I was on the outside looking in the whole season, which was super hard to do, but honestly, it gave me another kind of perspective on as to like why I love these girls and this team and this school so much. But I just remember I was on the fence, and I was cheering loudly every single pitch, like they could hear me, but they had no idea that I was even probably sitting there in the moment. That is what Malone's competitive drive and energy makes you do. It makes you become all in. She had 15 strikeouts that game, and she went 2 for 3 at the plate, but of all the stats, it was her presence, her grittiness, and the love of the game that had me invested, and many more that game. Malone Moore's fun facts. She broke the school record in a single season for batting average, on-base percentage, RBIs, tied for hits, and home runs. She was our MVP of this season this year, and actually the past 3 years she's been our most valuable player. She was all-conference, all-Marion County, and she made the all-state team this year. She is the 6th female in BG history to do so. We couldn't be more proud of this Lady Hornet. Buzz, buzz. So, Malone Moore, Alford Insurance Athlete of the Month.
Next on our agenda this evening is Mr. David Wright, who is the president of our Alumni Association, who wants to talk to us about something the Alumni Association would like to do for this school.
Thank you, President King, Superintendent Hammock, members of the board, and administrators and guests. And first of all, I'd also like to congratulate those great Beech Grove Hornet athletes. God bless you. It was awesome to hear about you, to watch you throughout the season. We are so proud of you. I would also like to bring, if I may, John Sharkey up. We are here to talk about the field at 13th and Main in Beech Grove and an idea that actually came to John. And I'd like for him to share the seeds of that idea, and then what I would like to share with you is a proposal. And with that, John?
Thank you, David. My name is John Sharkey. I'm a first vice president of the Alumni Association, class of 1963. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the journey, which lasted about 4 years, on the development of this idea. About 4 years ago, I was having a discussion with a few friends of mine, and we were talking about the mascot and the black and orange. And the story was told about the 30-31 state championship and how that's when it changed from the Yellow Jackets, black and gold, to the Hornets, black and orange. The story was a little bit sketchy, but I did remember that I thought everybody that goes to high school at Beech Grove High School should know this story, and it's not been told. It stood a very good chance of actually fading into the sunset. I remember thinking that it ought to be in a booklet or something and passed out to kids that come in to the school with the real story. Again, I thought it was a bit sketchy, so I called my dear friend and classmate, Carol Van Horn Sheldon, to get the real story. After several conversations, she was reluctant to write the story. She felt like it would be like blowing her own horn, if you pardon the pun. So after a few months, well, then came COVID. And of course, everything flatlined and there was no socializing, no getting around. So after a while, I contacted my friend Richard Compton. I knew that Richard and Carol shared a love of the sports, the high school sports, and they talked quite a bit, especially football season. And I told him what my thoughts were about the story. Richard talked to her and she agreed to put it on paper. So about 6 months or so ago, I received a call from Richard and he said the paper was in the editing stage and we would have a proof copy in just a few weeks. Once I read the mini biography of Mr. O.L. Van Horn, I was blown away. Carol's manuscript was far and away much more than I expected, and the story about the Victory Gardens set my mind and my heart spinning. And with that, I'd like to give it back to David. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I will just present to you our proposal. And I'll do it the way I've done it before with other organizations, and it is in the form of a proposal. A proposed resolution for the consideration of the Beech Grove City Schools, whereas O.L. Van Horn served the Beech Grove City School System for nearly 4 decades, 1929 to 1968, serving as coach, teacher, athletic director, principal, and assistant superintendent. And whereas with the success of his varsity basketball team of 1930 and 31, when Beech Grove High School won the Marion County Basketball Championship, Mr. Van Horn was honored by the Beech Grove School Board with the changing of the Beech Grove school mascot from the Yellow Jackets to the Hornets, a derivation and homage to Mr. Van Horn's name. And whereas Mr. Van Horn brought varsity football to Beech Grove High School in 1939, beginning with a 6-man intervarsity schedule of which home games were played at the Sarah T. Bolton Park. And whereas in 1944, Mr. Van Horn, along with fellow teacher Hubert Nichols, transformed the World War II Victory Garden, located at 13th and Main in Beech Grove, Indiana, into a football field to be used by the newly established 11-man varsity football team, which began in 1945. And whereas, as an educational advocate and leader in Beech Grove, Mr. Van Horn, along with Beech Grove School, the Beech Grove School Board, championed the need for a new high school facility to be located on Buffalo Street, and years later, the need for an additional new location of a high school building located on the then outskirts of Beech Grove. Indeed, the facility utilized today in its even more greatly expanded use and access. And whereas all citizens of Beech Grove, Indiana, past and present, have benefited from the vision, diligence, and executive leadership of O.L. Van Horn, therefore, the Beech Grove High School Alumni Association unanimously and humbly requests the Beech Grove City School Board to honor O.L. Van Horn, his memory, by naming the community athletic field located at 13th and Main Street in Beech Grove the O.L. Van Horn Memorial Field. Respectfully submitted, June 20th, 2023, David J. Wright, President, John Sharkey, First Vice President, Beech Grove High School Alumni Association.
So, do we vote on this now, or do we want to think about it? I mean, what's everybody think? This is kind of like we haven't really even talked about this.
I
What do you
just
think?
really want to thank David and the Alumni Association for putting all of this information together, for the thorough research, and for telling the story that is just so compelling and exciting and inspiring. You know, the board typically has received information at a meeting, and then we deliberate over that information in a work session, and then the board can come back and, if the board so chooses, can act at a follow-up meeting based on that discussion in the work session. I'm more than happy to put this on the agenda for our July meeting.
That would be
We
great.
could have this topic as our work session. You
That would be
can
great.
talk through the proposal. I can get you some copies of that. It's so beautifully written for that resolution.
That would be great.
And then we could, then at the August meeting, if the board would like to have a decision, we could
That
present
would be
that at
great.
that time?
Yeah.
Does that
Would
sound
that be okay?
reasonable?
I do have a question. If we decide to do this, I would assume that there would be signage of some sort. So I would assume that you guys are going to work on the signage, so
We've done that.
we would like to see the proposed signage as well, so that we can approve that or change it or tweak it or whatever. So if we could have that by our next meeting, we could at least look at that too. Is there any other items that you think we would need to look at for that?
The board does have a naming policy, and I'll make sure that the board has that, so you can refer to that in your action.
Okay.
I would
All right.
propose that in addition to that, we have some type of plaque explaining who
The story.
Mr.
Yes.
Van Horn was and why we've decided to change that.
I
We
agree.
can just say,
I think so too.
love the history.
Okay.
Something at one of the ball games, I would assume.
Yes, I would think so. Is that good?
Really special.
Yes,
If I may,
sure.
he asked me to let you know of his endorsement of this, but I talked with Mayor Buckley yesterday, and he said that the Van Horn family and the Buckley family have been longtime friends, and he truly endorses this. And I just wanted to share that with you. Also, if I might, no pressure at all, obviously.
No pressure.
Our hope would be either on Friday or Saturday morning, there would, of the Fall Festival of Beach Grove, if there would be if this happens, if there would be a ceremony and a ribbon cutting ceremony where we could all celebrate Superintendent Hammack, Mayor, and a variety of others in town.
Okay.
Join in that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this to us.
By the way, I do have copies already for you.
So
I
great.
knew he would.
I
He's so
don't know why I'm not
prepared.
surprised. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless you all.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to have a hearing on some things that we have to do later. You all are welcome to stay, or you're welcome to leave. We're going to take a few-minute break, and then we're going to
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that was
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Of our student athletes, please, yes.
Good save, Brian.
Yeah, yeah. His wife is.
I was going to say, 100% Mitzi said, I need
So we now have a project hearing. And I'm so sorry because this is a whole scripted thing that I have to read about this project. And if you get sick of hearing my voice, tell me and I'll have Rob read. Okay, so our next item on the agenda is for the board to hold a project hearing on the proposed project. That makes sense. If you're interested in speaking at the hearing,
I think
I
can
think we
probably
may
skip
have
that
one
whole
person.
spot. And Mr. Tanzel's going to
Yes?
be presenting, yes.
please make sure you have signed the sheet, which nobody has signed in, right?
Right.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. After the presentation, administration advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comment. We don't have anyone here. So we're going to move on. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Hammock to please talk to us about our legally required published hearing information.
Absolutely. Well, just wanted to let the board and our public know that the notice of this hearing was published as required on June the 9th in the Indianapolis Star, as well as in the Indianapolis Business Journal. This meeting, it is statutorily required that we talk about the purpose of this hearing. And pursuant to Indiana Code 20-26-7-37, before a school corporation may spend more than $1 million to build, repair, or alter a school building that will be financed by a lease or bonds, it must hold a public hearing at which explanations of the potential value of the project to the school corporation and community are given. These public hearings and the adoption of resolutions is the very beginning of this legal process. These resolutions establish the financial terms for the proposed project.
Dr. Hammock will now talk to us about the process of determining and communicating the project to the community and the need for this project.
Well, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate how the board has been deeply engaged in the review of ongoing project needs across our district. As you recall, last summer, we mapped out a long-term plan for project management with our financial advisors from Baker Tilly. Tonight, we are taking the next step with addressing the ever-growing list of our project needs. Specifically, project needs that warrant prioritization fall under the categories of heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, building roofs, the purchase of school buses, paving, facility renovations, and general operations needs.
Now, we're going to have Baker Tilly speak.
This will be me for
You're-
one more
you're
time,
one
and then
more?
it'll be Baker Tilly, yes. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how the proposed project meets our needs. It's important that we kind of talk about the project itself and then why that project is needed and how this project will meet our needs. So while the projects listed in our summary of needs do not fall under the category of flashy, they are most certainly necessary. HVAC units in several buildings are well past their life cycle, with maintenance costs and time on task increased, while we have witnessed catastrophic failures that have interrupted the operations of traditional school days. Building roofs have been patched and repatched again, and have interfered with the ability for students to learn and teachers to teach due to an overflow of leaks. We have an aging fleet of school buses that need to be replaced as they have reached the end of their life cycle, which is all established in Indiana Code. A tour of our parking lots is witness to an embarrassing number of potholes. If you're from Cleveland, you call them chuck holes, and general decay. Our bathrooms and learning facilities in some of our buildings require modernization and beautification to foster safe and engaging learning environments for our students and staff. Finally, our general ability to manage an operations fund that receives $0 from the state due to the property tax caps results in a harrowing condition for our ability to keep the buildings and general operations of our transportation department aligned to code. For all the project needs listed above and understanding the rationale for each, we are grateful for the board's consideration of these proposed projects.
And now we are going to hear from Baker Tilly, who's going to tell us about the proposed project and how we're hoping to finance it. I'm sorry.
Good evening, Dr. Hammock and members of the board. Thank you for having me at tonight's project hearing. My name is Jason Tansel with Baker Tilly, and we represent the school corporation as your municipal advisor. So now that we've had an opportunity to hear about the project needs and the general maintenance needs of the school corporation, we will now review how the school corporation could finance these needs through the issuance of one or more series of bonds totaling $6,105,000. The school corporation will pay for these bonds through its debt service fund, which levies a tax. And right now, the school corporation does not anticipate that these bonds will increase the debt service tax rate. It's important to keep in mind as well that within the resolutions for your consideration tonight that we are establishing maximums. And these are maximums that we cannot exceed, but we can come down from. These within your resolutions would include borrowing amount, which will be established at $6,105,000, a repayment term not to exceed 15 years, and a maximum interest rate not to exceed 5.5%. And so I do have a presentation here that we will review that summarizes the information within your resolutions, but please feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions as we move along. I'd be happy to answer any questions during the presentation or at the end of the presentation, whatever is best for the school board. So with that, as mentioned here, we talked about the fact that these bonds will be payable through the school corporation's debt service fund. So here on this slide, we have a summary of all the bonds that are currently paid through the non-exempt and exempt debt service fund of the school. And there's a lot of colors on this, I realize that, but really the main takeaway that I want the board to take away from this slide is the fact that total annual payments of all bonds, they're represented by their own color, stacked on top of one another. So you can see total annual payments is approximately $7.5 million in 2023, and that it's decreasing almost every single year thereafter with all debt repaid by 2041. And these step downs in annual payments are what it will allow the school corporation to potentially bring on new bonds as other bonds mature and retire. And so on the next slide here, you can see we have now broken this down into which bonds are payable from the referendum fund and which bonds are payable from the regular debt service fund. And the green bars represent bonds payable through referendum, and so these bonds are not that. These bonds are payable through the school corporation's regular debt service fund, so they will go into the blue category here. So again, you can see from 2023, if we just focus on the blue bars, those are decreasing in 2024, 2026, and in 2027, all bonds being repaid by 2041. On the next slide, also for the board's consideration is a preliminary bond resolution prepared by your bond counsel, Ice Miller. And that preliminary bond resolution is for a $995,000 general obligation bond. And when we are looking at a general obligation bond, there is a limitation as to how much we can issue, and that limitation is 2% of 1/3 of your most recent net assessed value. And that is within the Constitution of the state. I did not come up with this calculation. But you can see here that once we factor in the other two general obligation bonds of the school corporation, we have the pension bonds being repaid by 2025, and last year's general obligation bonds in the amount of $1,860,000. We have approximately 1.2 remaining for general obligation bonds. Anything above and beyond that would be payable through the school corporation's building corporation. And that is a mechanism that the school has used previously and is available to you should anything arise beyond the $1.2 million for project need. Again, within your project resolution tonight, we are establishing a maximum borrowing amount of $6,105,000. But the financing plan anticipates that being broken out into two separate bonds. A $995,000 general obligation bond that will have an estimated repayment term of 3 years, and a $5,110,000 first mortgage bond that will be issued not this year but next year, and that will also have a maximum repayment term of 15 years. Factoring in bond issuance costs of for the $6,105,000, you can see approximately $5,755,000 is our estimate that will be available for hard and soft construction costs. Right now, our estimated repayment term is 13 years, but again, within your resolution, you'll see a term not to exceed January of 2039. So that would be 15 years. Estimated interest cost between both series of bonds, using the maximum of 5.5% on our interest rate, you can see is $2,465,000. Approximately $92,000 of that would be allocated to the $995,000 general obligation bond being considered this year. Maximum annual payment of $1,189,000. However, as being discussed, that because we have other obligations of the school corporation coming to term and retiring, we don't anticipate having an increase to the debt service tax rate. So we have that as zero. And actually, you can see here on our last row that we actually project the debt service tax rate to go down depending on where assessed values land. And so right now, the debt service tax rate of the school is $1.06, and really estimating that to be approximately 80 cents by 2026, so in 3 years. Our next slide would really illustrate this point here, where those blue bars represent all the already existing debt payments of the school that are payable through the regular debt service fund. That would match with what we saw on slide 3. The green bars represent the $995,000 general obligation bond, and the purple bars represent the proposed repayment term for the 2024 $5,110,000 first mortgage bonds. The line represents our estimate for debt service tax rate, and I just want to point out here that that references the right axis of this graph, where you can see the left axis is total annual payments, not increasing above $5,850,000. But the right line is our estimate for the debt service tax rate, where again you can see we're just over $1 in 2023, and that decreasing by 2026 in 3 years to about the 80 cents mark. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time, or happy to answer anything in the resolutions.
Okay, at this time, if we had someone here, we would open up for a public hearing, but we don't have anyone participating in that portion, so we are going to move on. The project resolution is required. Is that
I
where
can explain
I
what
wanna
that
go?
is.
You want to go? Okay.
Sure. So we have a few actions for your consideration this evening that our board president will call for your approval. Just wanted to let you know that these project resolutions are required when the school is planning to spend more than $1 million per building. It contains the estimated hard and soft construction costs and the cost of issuance, and establishes that total project cost. It also contains the estimated tax impact, and this establishes the maximum financial terms of the project to be issued in one or more series of bonds.
Quick question before you continue for Jason. You had discussed the assessed value, a percentage depending upon how much, whether it goes up or goes down. Does Baker Tilly have a guess on what might be happening? I mean, I try to keep track of trends on real estate and you know what the state's doing and our local area is doing, but I'm not as schooled as you are, so I'd love a professional opinion.
I appreciate that, and as you all are aware, Beach Grove has experienced some really great strong assessed value growth in the past years, especially last year, 15% assessed value growth. We are not projecting 15% next year, but we are still looking at maybe a 5-year rolling average of 4.2% growth, but that might be a little more tailored to 2024, with some of those housing values still being assessed, some of the assessments have been done already for May 2024. So I don't have a specific number.
No, I would never, obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. I know you guys look at trends more than I do, and I just wanted your professional opinion.
So yeah, 4.2% was our rolling average for the next 5 years.
Is that pretty much in line with you guys are thinking as well, or using their information?
We go by there, that's about average, everything.
Which we love any type of positive because we saw so many negatives so many years in a row, especially after, we got stuck with the circuit breaker caps plus a decreased assessed value. We really took it in the eye socket. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, so could I get a motion to adopt the project resolution?
I motion that we adopt the project resolution.
April, and who would second that, please? Rob? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then the preliminary board resolution is the first step in issuing the 2023 general obligation bonds. It contains expected maximum financial terms of the 2023 general obligation bonds, and we will bring the final bond resolution back to the board next month for final approval. Could I have a motion and a second to adopt the preliminary bond resolution?
I'll make motion.
Tara?
Second.
Rick, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The next resolution is a reimbursement resolution relating to the financing of the project issued in one or more series of bonds. This resolution permits the school corporation to reimburse itself from bonds proceeds for any cash which it might spend on the project prior to the closing on the bond. It is required by federal tax law in order to preserve the school corporation's ability to reimburse itself. Were you supposed to read that?
You did such a lovely job. That was perfect.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Could I have a motion and a second to adopt that reimbursement resolution?
I'll second.
Rob and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Was that Beth or April? Was that right?
It was Beth. Okay. Okay, now what do we want to do with this? Do we need to read all of this?
No, those are just, it's a summary of what our minutes will look like for this hearing.
Oh,
because
gee whiz,
you did
that's
it,
going to be long.
Madam President, you got to the
So
end.
we're done?
You can officially adjourn the project hearing.
Oh, yay. So could I get someone to please adjourn this project hearing?
Make motion to adjourn.
Rick, Tara, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And do we need to before we do that, do we need to do the Exhibit A project resolution, or we did these already?
Yeah, we do have to have, these are out, yes, we'll have to do
So should
actual
we have
action.
done that before? Well, I guess we can do that after. Okay, so now we have two more motions.
Yes.
We need a motion to approve the Exhibit A project resolution determining need for project.
I'll move.
I'll second. Jill, Tara, I had a brain freeze there for a minute. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And a motion to approve Exhibit B preliminary bond resolution.
So moved.
Beth?
Second.
Rob, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry?
Beth and Rob.
Beth and Rob. Okay, we're done.
We're done.
We don't need to do
With that-
C.
We don't have, I don't see a C.
I don't have to see.
Where's a C?
After B?
Oh, no, we're on the small.
Oh, on the small
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Gotcha. Wrong one. Never mind.
Okay, so we did that one, no, we didn't do this one.
I
What
got
did I miss?
That was cute.
It's over.
After Tracy, after
It's
Mary.
been a
It is, absolutely. That's great.
Okay, so we are done. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Have a good evening. Thank you. So Mitzi's not here this evening for community relations. Is somebody taking her place?
She just wanted to call your attention to her board report. In it, she has a number of updates. A couple of those I'll include in a short presentation that I'll have under the superintendent update. But she's been super busy, and all efforts focused right now towards attracting and retaining our student enrollment. And her efforts, I think you will find, are certainly realizing just that, and some really great work that has been done on her end. So just would ask you all to refer to her update in your packet.
Okay, thank you. And Brian, we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Just a few things. I gave you an update kind of where we are with personnel. That was as of last Thursday. Our principals are still busy filling those positions. Also, the proposed revisions to the administrative handbook. I kind of gave you outline of those. The first part is really just kind of updating some of the language regarding maternity leave, adding some of the language for FMLA, and then also the maternity benefit that changed after collective bargaining. And then the other proposed change is just to align with the collective bargaining agreement and past practice with regards to the sick leave bonus. Again, these are proposed changes, so they require your action. But these would be our recommendation to update the administrative handbook. Then also, just a little bit about the student-run business at the middle school. I thought I'd give you a quick update there. Mr. Morgan and I have been working on that. We've raised about a little over $17,000 so far. Wow. Yeah, that's positive. We're still hoping to raise quite a lot more. We have a grant that was written that we'll know about in September that was for about $350,000 that would help with the renovation of the space. I think both of us see this as a real positive for students. I love his vision to kind of partner at-risk students with our real high-achieving students. I think that's a great concept. And having been in a school where we had a student-run business, that there's such an authentic learning experience that is just great for kids. So if you know of businesses that might want to donate, we kind of have 3 levels. Bronze is $1,000, silver $2,500, and the gold is $5,000. And we're going to really have a nice ceremony where the plan is to open the business in July of 2024 officially, and really hopefully get the news media there and be able to celebrate our partners. So we're looking for more. If you know of someone that you think might be really interested in this and interested in being a sponsor, a partner with us, then please let me or Mr. Morgan know. Send me an email and I'll make a donation.
Brian, I also told Mary's story. I leased retail space for years and put young businesses in business. And I told them if they ever needed any help, I'd be happy to help them. I can show them how to start from nothing and work their way up. So I'd be happy to help them if they need my help.
Yeah, because that's going to be part of, just there's so many more things that need to be done and can be done as you layer this thing, create a business model, and I could talk about it for an hour here about all the things that it's such a valuable experience for the kids.
They will learn a lot.
And we're going to kind of tie that in with revamping, or not really revamping, but kind of, I suppose, taking Project Lead the Way a little bit, and taking the design and modeling piece of that and using that incorporated into the business as well. So there can be a dual purpose. It's that design and modeling, that 3D modeling program is a really skill that kids can use immediately when they graduate.
Will Zach Capps' new position be involved in that at all?
No, it will be, although it's the financial literacy part is really important too. Jeremy Pfeiffer will be the designated teacher for that, so he's actually signed up right now to start this Project Lead the Way training. We got I think I put in here a $9,100 grant from Project Lead the Way, and I wrote another one, hopefully we'll get for another $20,000 that will help with the training and just really, Project Lead the Way, if you're not real familiar with it, I think is just a great curriculum. And there's a lot of different modules. We're looking at the computer science one, the biomedical one, and they all just filter right into the high school. So in the middle school, it's called Gateway. At the high school, it's Project Lead the Way.
And I have to say, I cannot tell you how happy I am that we have somebody teaching kids how to balance checkbooks, write checks, understanding credit.
Yep.
I think that's fantastic.
Huge, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think
it's
that
been launched.
course will be really popular as well. I don't know what curriculum. I know he looked into it. At Brown County, I used Dave Ramsey's public school curriculum, which I think was really, really cost efficient, and it was I thought a really good curriculum. He's got one for private and one for public schools. So I think his daughter wrote that curriculum actually.
It's pretty cool.
But it's I know Ryan was looking into the cost. I think it was only about $1,800 for the cost of it.
Does anybody have any questions about the employment recommendations? We'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the employment recommendations.
Rick, second, please.
I'll second.
Jill, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we need a motion to approve the 23-24 Administrator Handbook.
I move we approve the handbook.
Beth, I'll second. Tara, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Dr. Hammock?
Yeah.
Can I say one other thing real quick? Just the CEP, we did get it approved for, we reapplied and our percentage reimbursement rate went from 49 to 59. So that means about 95% of all of our meals now will be completely reimbursed free.
Wow.
And we were able to include the early childhood center. So that will be helpful for those parents. I think it's a good, nice thing for our community.
We discussed before on tracking our kindergartners and the enrollment into South Grove. Are we still doing that?
With
to make sure
preschool?
Retention. Yes,
Oh,
preschool.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So all of the above of what you just asked. So Erin has developed a tracking system, so for any student who is enrolled in preschool that then continues with us, which is, by the way, the intent behind having preschool and having students then ultimately enroll as kindergarten, working incredibly well. Students who are enrolled in pre-K are enrolling with us in kindergarten, which is thrilling. She will be tracking their achievement results to compare sort of those who experienced and those who didn't, just to see, just kind of a data point for
Sure.
us, on sort of moving on. And then another data point that has been looked at is, I think to answer your point about South Grove, you're sort of comparing the Beech Grove experience of a student sort of pre-K through 6 as opposed to a student who might have come into our district somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
With our transiency rate being as high as it is, like 33%, 1 in 3 students are moving over the course of the year. Just to see, if we can kind of compare, sort of the impact of consistency and being a Hornet through the entirety of your educational experience. So all of those data points with their dashboards, all of that is data that's being tracked by their instructional leadership teams.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just really compelling stuff that's happening. The work that we did with EES coming in, kind of talking about our learning prioritization plan. All of that work is really feeding into this very brief presentation that I'll share with the board here in just a couple of minutes. But what's neat is that, I think I asked you all for 5 years when I was talking about being able to really have an impact on student achievement and really see our district showing up in a different way as compared to, how we're doing as compared to our benchmark peers and our Marion County peers. All of this work is behind that. So I know we want quick and immediate results. It's all that I want in the world is to see our results improving. And what is exciting to be able to share with you is that we have preliminary data back for spring testing. It's a lot better than where we were last year, but it's not where we want to be. Right? So this stuff matters, and the work that we're doing with our goal setting and then ultimately our strategic plan, all of this work, it's holding us accountable to ensure that the work happens, and then all in the effort to make the impact on what our kids are doing, right? So it's just good stuff and great people behind it and programs that are being deployed that are going to be flagships of our middle school, right? This student-run business is going to be something that students will be clamoring to be a part of, and the fact that it'll impact high-achieving students who struggle, and then the lift that can happen as a result on both sides, from work like that. So compelling. So good. Great. So, sorry. I do have one piece of action. I bird-walked a little bit there, didn't mean it, but it's why we wake up in the morning. So this is hilarious, but we, and gosh, just to kind of position ourselves to where we were 2 years ago as to where we are now. 2 years ago, you'll recall that you were tasked with developing and then ultimately working with the community to develop a return to instruction plan that was in direct response to COVID. A requirement to be able to continue to receive, well, to deploy, because we kind of have access to them, the ESSER dollars, is to have an in-person instruction plan, and then that we are required as a board to take public comment on it and to deploy it. The great news is that we are at the last stop on this railroad train. So this is the last time that we need to publicly ask for your approval of our return to instruction plan. It has not changed except for the fact that every limitation has been lifted, and, we are fully now viable in school, and we do not, only when students are sick do they have to stay home. So everything has been updated in the plan itself. It is all required to be posted on the website. We have to send to the state, and which then sends to the feds where on the website it's posted. So it's quite detailed in that regard. But tonight, all that we're asking for, since we have no public, is just that instruction.
I do have a question. I know that at some point, we had some kids that were still not coming to school. Do we no longer agree with that situation and they must come back, or they're considered, let's say, truant? Is that how this works?
The only way that you can participate in Beech Grove City Schools virtually is if you have a medical need that presents. So we have students, not many, but we have students who do participate virtually because of a compelling medical need that in an IEP or in a Section 504 plan, they have defined that this is the only way that they can access their education. We're down to about a handful at this point.
Okay.
So no one is choosing virtual because of COVID at this point. So that's all been eliminated.
Okay.
There are families who we do believe are still accessing their education through alternate platforms, so not ours, but others, that have not come back to Beech Grove, that are still home as a result of the pandemic, right? But since they are technically homeschooled, we have no authority over them.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I was reading an article, and it caught my attention. I did a little bit of research on homeschooling, but what it didn't convey is what happens if that student doesn't meet the benchmarks that the state sets. At what point does the state go to the parent and say, hey, look, we get it, you tried, but you're not doing a good job, or they're not grasping or being engaged? How does that work?
Nothing.
Nothing.
There's Indiana, and Indiana is unique. It's not this way in every state, but in Indiana specifically, the government has zero oversight over homeschooling. So you don't need to submit your curricula. You don't even need to register your student as a homeschool student. There is a mechanism to do that, but you're not required to as a family.
Ouch.
So it's the responsibility of the school. If a family decides to re-enter, then it is the responsibility of the school to assess, to just see where the student is kind of showing up to their education, to make sure that they are, what we try to do is have them with their typical grade level peers, but sometimes that discrepancy is so significant that we need to really think about placement.
Wow. It's kind of scary.
So in a homeschool situation, do they still have to take the same sort of testing that?
There's no requirement.
None.
Doesn't have to be a certified program.
No.
I say I'm homeschooling my kids, and whatever I decide to do,
That's correct.
That's it.
Wow. That's very unfair to the kids.
because I mean,
Yeah.
back in the day, there was homeschooling, but you had
You
to
just
buy.
submit a curricula
You had to buy a
or-
program
yeah.
that actually sent
Right.
work for you, and had to send it back. And
Yeah, almost like a correspondence class.
so
back in
it's
the day.
literally
Yes.
just nothing. Hey, I taught him, he's
Wow.
good.
That's right.
Wow.
There is.
Is there a diploma at the end?
No, you can say
Or is it
that they've
GED?
completed and then, so you need to, if you're moving on to college, or if you can say that you have a diploma through your homeschool. I mean, you can do that. And then you would need, if you're applying for college, and if the college requires SAT or ACT, you would have to use those assessments. But
We use
there
the
is
transcripts.
no sort, yeah,
There is?
you can kind
So
of
basically,
create your own.
if you're
Yeah.
homeschooling, you're not going to college.
No, actually, many do.
A lot of
Yeah, many do.
Because there's a lot of different mindsets
Yeah.
around homeschooling. But many of the families in Beech Grove that truly homeschool belong to a homeschool co-op. And they're sharing curriculum
Sure.
that meets the ideals of what they as a co-op established.
So it is some sort of a program.
There is, and they are typically registered with the state. A lot of them take some sort of graduation level course, because they'll come into the library with a proctor to take that course. And then they can apply for financial aid and things like that. And there's a state-sponsored test. It's a high school test, but not the GED. Now, there are other families that are a lot less,
more Montessori-based or loosey-goosey or religiously based and things like that. But there are ways to link your homeschool into a co-op that has a true curriculum that's recognized by the state, and therefore your graduation certificate is accepted.
It could be really, really good or really, really bad.
Exactly.
I think the
We've seen-
basis behind the reason that it is the way it is to give families the freedom, right, to be loosey-goosey or to have that co-op situation. I think that's why it's in place. Of course, there's going to be exceptions, but anyway, that's why it is.
Okay. Well, could we get a motion to approve the fifth and final return in-person instruction plan for 2023-24?
I move.
Second?
Rick, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's just a brief little presentation here. Just want to update you on some work that we've been doing over the course of the year. It really has taken an entire school year to get to just about 6 or 7 slides, but I'm excited to share them with you. We recognized over the last couple of years that it was time for us to take sort of a comprehensive look at what grounds us as an organization and kind of what we rally behind when it comes to our vision, our mission, our core values, and our beliefs. And really all of this work has been springboarded from kind of 2 whys. First, this concept of like rebranding or just marketing to ensure that we retain the Beech Grove residents who are choosing other options, right? So we know that we have like 300 students who live in Beech Grove who choose somewhere else to go to school, or to attract students to Beech Grove to be able to keep this school district vibrant and moving into the future. So a lot of the work that we have done is through a number of focus groups. You all were one of them. You worked with our partners at EES to give some feedback. We had parent focus groups, we had community focus groups, students, teachers, administrators, instructional coaches, number of focus groups to be able to get sort of feedback on what works well in this district. You heard some updates on that when Mike presented to you all kind of under the instructional domain. Some of the things that we hear over and over again when we hear about Beech Grove is that it's a home and that it's a family and that people love the work that they do in this organization and that we actually have a love for each other and that love really pours into the students that we serve. So when we talk about Beech Grove, we are intentional when we talk about words like home and family and love. So we ended up to be able to get feedback for mission, vision, core values, belief statements, really kind of looking at our organization, from a collective sort of feedback way. We engage with every single building just to be able to kind of hear what's going well in our district, what are our pain points, what do we celebrate here, what do we want to celebrate here, and kind of collected all of that content during my year 1. During year 2, we did a road show to all of our buildings to get kind of ongoing feedback of iterations of mission, vision, core values, and beliefs. And then ultimately, we have kind of this final product that is ready for your consumption this evening. So I talked to you about process tonight because we come to you this evening with kind of excitement and enthusiasm behind some of this thinking. And what's so special about it is that it's not my thinking, it's not just your thinking, it is collective thinking from across the organization to get to a space where the ideas behind this work, I think, are going to resonate and are going to stick. And that's what's really important when you kind of think about branding and vision and the like. So this process has been deep with focus group, deep with building work, and then we're excited about what we're presenting to you this evening because hopefully we'll see this over and over and over and over again. So these are, when we kind of think about branding, these are some things that really have stuck over the last couple of years as we have thrown them out to test. First off, this concept of 5 schools, 1 family, that really has resonated. Social media has really taken that, kind of hashtags all over the place with this concept of 5 schools, 1 family, really ties us together that though we're 5 separate, we are 1 common Beech Grove City Schools. It's super cool that our Hornet is endemic across every building. you know, many school districts, you have Eagles and Hornets and, you know, you have 9 different mascots and then you're one high school. For us, we're all Hornets, and that's really cool and really powerful. You don't see that in a lot of organizations. Hashtag together, obviously We Before Me is something that really separates Beech Grove apart. Those are words that you don't necessarily see in other spaces. You have seen in billboards around you lately this concept of love where you learn. Obviously, we're trying to recruit folks to be in Beech Grove City Schools. We're #1 recruiting Beech Grove residents to Beech Grove schools. That's why you see billboards in Beech Grove. That is intentional. We have a billboard that's outside, but we want Beech Grove folks to come to Beech Grove City Schools because it's our city and it's our school, right? Once again, just really trying to rally behind what makes this district so special. And we have a place for you here. You know, the fact that we're talking about declining enrollment is kind of a negative. What's cool? We've got a place for you here. We have space, and we want you here, and we want to be able to pour in the love that we have for your children here in this district.
Private school education at a public school price.
It's the Rick Skirvin. I mean, honestly, on a T-shirt. I have had you in my head for the last, 12, 13 years. It's a beautiful thing. You're exactly right. So this is what we're doing right now. Just really getting the word out. Just to remind you all of this has been paid for through grant funding. So none of this is taxpayer funding. Through our TSL grant. It was all with the intention and purpose of being able to market and campaign to recruit and retain students and staff that funding was for. So any of the static billboards are under TSL funding. The electronic billboard was gifted us to by the city. So that is actually a rolling electronic billboard on 465. So we come up, you know, after the 5 seconds or whatever it is in delay. And our Hornet Nation is there. I love, the city has kind of picked up on Love Where You Learn. They're using now Love Where You Live, which I think is really special. I know, I think it's really neat.
That a lot.
And it's kind of showing that, you know, we're on the same page, and we didn't ask them. They picked that up on their own, which we thought was really great. Just wanted to quick show you, we will obviously not go through every single page here, but our website redesign is live. So this went live just a couple of days ago. It's beautiful, it is modern, it's clean. Those are all words that we really went after. We've got kind of sweet rotating photos here of our beautiful kiddos and doing really special things. And it's just an engaging, very modern site. Our last site was a little bit, it just had a lot going on with it. This one is a little bit more clean and
That was
hopefully.
my great nephew at the top of that page.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how wonderful is that? So I just invite you, we will, right here, that's your
Michael
nephew.
Skirvin.
Well, we love him, and he was so excited to show off. That's the STEM classroom in Hornet Park, that gorgeous learning space. So what a cutie pie, oh my word. Each of our schools has their own page, of course, so we won't take your time tonight, but each principal has a statement. There are pictures on the pages that are specific to the actual school building, and yeah, just lots of links there that would be specific on this page to the high school.
I was looking for something a couple days ago, and I
Notice?
Yay! Kind of thumbed through, and it looks really nice.
That's great. We had a kind of a nerve-wracking 24 hours where we had no site, freaking out. We were refreshing all the time, but ultimately they took us back to the old one, and then this one it's now up and it's running, and it's beautiful. And we have, this is such a cool thing. We now have, just on the bottom left here, if you're interested in joining our family, and we have another Join Our Family link up here, you can get to it in different ways. You can submit your student's name, parent, and then your email address, and then that submits to Mitzi. And then Mitzi has already had 4 families reach out who want to enroll in Beech Grove who are new to our district. So just by having that there in like the course of 1 week, we've had that kind of traffic. So that's super special without any kind of big rollout. We haven't even done, a Parent Square blast about this yet. But it really is beautiful. Some of the things that we've added really marry with our vision, our vision, mission, and core values. All the new things that, we're kind of unrolling to you tonight are here. What others are saying about us, this is a really sweet page. These are all quotes from people who are here or alumni, and just some powerful testimony from folks that love this district as much as we do. So yeah, that's kind of a fun thing for us to get to share with you all this evening.
Nice.
And then wanted to kind of talk to you about core values. So we landed on 5. Again, this is from a whole bunch of feedback of belonging, diversity, growth, community, and learning. I will not read this all to you, but what I will do is after tonight, I'll send this presentation to you all so you can read everything that has gone in behind crafting these statements and why we believe that these 5 things are so deeply important to our district. But most importantly, we do all things together. There's that word together showing up with love. The vision statement, so this is really how we conceive ourselves in a future state, how we want for this district to look. And how we've landed here is that Beech Grove City Schools, where all students believe education is the way to change their world. So right now, we're not sure that every student pre-K through 12 believes that education is a game changer, right? We are going to pour into the belief that what they do, what this thing that they do all day, every day, that it matters, and that it's actually a lever in changing what happens next, right? Right now, we're just not so sure that they believe that this thing that they do all day, every day matters as far as what's next. So we want Beech Grove City Schools to be a place where all students believe that education is the way to change their world. And we do that here.
Nice.
We do that through our mission. That this is kind of how we attain our vision. So this is really sort of a district-wide, compelling need, and this is how we do it. So number 1, we worry that we've kind of lost a little bit as far as high expectations for every student. And high expectations for every student looks different. Doesn't mean that student A has the same high expectations as student B, and student B as student C. But that for every student, for where they're showing up to school, that we hold high expectations for them. When you see data that kind of drops like ours has over the last 10 years, lots and lots of research that would say what's happening is that it's not out of malice, but what we just try to keep meeting where they are, and so we keep dropping our expectations. So as we, sort of those high tides lift all ships, we need to have high expectations for every student, and we do this 3 ways. First, delivering highly engaging educational opportunities. We need to make sure that what's happening in our classrooms is interesting and engaging, and that we're doing things like our student-run business so that students are connected and plugged into this thing that we do all day, every day. I don't think we're necessarily fully there yet. That we design individualized, equitable access. So that means that if you're a student with special needs, that your access points look different than a student who might have more typical needs. Or if you're a high ability student, that you have access points that are different than where a typical student might be learning. That we have every access point available to every student who's showing up on the continuum. And that we develop student ownership for their learning. We don't want school to be done to students. We want students to be immersed in their learning and that they own what they're learning because they believe that it has value and relevance for them with what's next. And that's so that every student is positioned for success the day that they walk across the stage at graduation. So these are sort of the things that we're kind of offering to our employees as far as this is what we need to be doing in order to ensure that all students believe that education is the way to change their world. Finally, our belief statements. So these are things that really when we're doing our recruiting of employees, teachers, paraprofessionals, anyone who really works in the service of students, coaches, that everyone believes these things. And that if you don't believe these things, you're kind of misaligned with what we're doing here. So if you don't believe these things, it's probably not a place for you, right? So first, we believe that our learners thrive when we love them first. The hashtags next to these statements are our core values. So we want our students to feel like they belong. That their physical, social, and emotional needs are met. That they're engaged in a diverse and equitable learning environment. That they take ownership for their learning, their words, and their actions. That they're serving and partnering with their community. That they're connecting to extracurricular and co-curricular activities. That their parents and caregivers are our partners, that we're not at odds with each other. And that learning is personal, meaningful, and enjoyable. And those all tie into kind of those core values of belonging, diversity, learning, community, and growth. So these are the wind in our sails. They're really the things that guide our vision, our mission, our core values. And we want everyone who shows up to work in Beech Grove to believe these things so that we can then be in service of these beliefs with what we put together for kids. So we needed all of this work to be done so that we can then get our strategic plan up and running and off the ground. And now that we kind of have this groundwork in place, that's where we'll pull in our LPP work. So we now have the published document for our learning prioritization plan. And we believe that we'll have sort of 5 focus areas that we'll workshop over these next few months with you all. Because this will be what I will be reporting out to you on as far as how our progress. You know, when I told you at the last meeting, the one with Mike, I said, hold me accountable to this stuff. Like my job needs to depend on this kind of thing. If we're not, thank you. If we're not delivering, we need to change things up. And so this is the kind of stuff that gets us excited and that really can, I mean, sometimes I think people think that vision and mission and core values are sort of words, kind of fluff. It can be if it's not action oriented, right? So like we want to stand behind this work with you all. And I just wanted to invite you into the work here and just know that this is a collective of a whole bunch of folks and a whole bunch of insight. And even some, you know, like some heated discussions might be the right word, right? Kind of what we believe, but all in passion and love and good things. So that's that. That's all. But any questions on any of this work?
No, but you do need to know that when I don't know about everybody else, but when I talk to teachers, I want you to know how thrilled they are that you're here and how happy they are that they're here. And it used to be you talk to them and they are just happy. We're so happy. They're just happy with everything. And I think that makes such a better environment for them, for the kids, for everybody that has anything to do with the school system. It's just wonderful to see that everyone is happy. And we need to thank you for that because you've brought them all together.
Amazing team. Such a great team, you guys. And I couldn't do without each one of you, that's for sure. Really great people. Oh,
Yeah, you could.
Hell no. Hell, can I use a naughty word in public? No. Hell no. But actually, kind of an objective data point that I think you'll be excited about, that we gave the last Panorama survey, which is the survey that assesses kind of how folks are feeling about being at work. You guys really inspired us to do that after my first meeting. We're making progress. We're making progress. Yeah, so like compared to this time last year, great progress. In fact, progress so great that Mary has already reached her year 2 growth goal in our TSL grant. So good.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and we'll get you guys those results for sure.
Cool.
Really good stuff.
So
Cool.
could we get a motion to approve our?
Yes.
Well, do you want to talk about the additional days for
Sure.
Rita before we even do
Yeah.
this? I mean, you
This-
had it in there.
You
but-
bet. Yeah, this was in my update, but just wanted to let you ask for your approval of not to exceed 15 total days for Rita Bass to continue to work with us just to assist with that transition of our grants responsibility. She and Brian have been working very closely on getting him onboarded to take over all of the grants under the federal umbrella, with the exception of TSL that Mary has. And just an example of this today, Amy Reeves has now taken the High Ability Grant, and Amy, like we just had a couple questions. We reached out to Rita. It would be so nice if we could pay her for the time that she'll be helping us with this transition.
Sure.
Quick question with that.
Yeah.
Do you feel 15 days is enough?
I think so. We got the pre-app already done.
I don't want to set a certain number of days and
Yeah,
then cut it
right.
off,
Right.
if, and then have him struggle on a couple things. I know he's smart enough to get it figured out, but
If we
if
need-
Rita spent another day,
We can revisit it too.
Yeah,
though,
we can
right?
always revisit.
Modify and
We could bring it
Yeah,
back.
If
we
a
can
big-
extend
Big
it.
project comes up, we can do
Yeah,
a special
Sure.
consultant type
I think so.
contract, right?
Is the 480 what her daily rate
Yes.
was when she
Left,
retired?
yes.
Brian, do you have any more room left in your schedule to take on a few more things?
No.
Every time you turn around, you're getting another job. God love you.
He's done a great job.
So knowledgeable with the application process. And so she's really helpful. Because it would take me quite a long time to figure it out. She just knows it.
Well, if you need more,
No, I'm not.
after you get here,
It's a great starting point.
don't just take it and then not ask for more, because we'll be happy to pay for more if you need it, okay?
Because, yeah, we could easily quickly approve a consulting.
Yeah,
type.
yeah, okay. So we get a motion to approve the additional workdays for Rita,
I'll make a motion to approve the additional workdays for Rita.
Rick, Rob, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Tom?
Good evening. I'll just highlight a couple things. Noticed that we've ordered 2 buses. One mini bus that is yellow that has a stop arm on it. The state of Indiana helped us out because previous to this year, you had to have a CDL license to drive one, so there wasn't much benefit in us buying a yellow bus, a yellow mini bus, because we couldn't staff it. But now anyone can drive it, so that'll assist us with picking up some of our special needs students during the day, and we can put it out on trips in the evening with coaches and et cetera. Both of those buses, we're looking at around Christmas of '24 before we get them. So we had to get them ordered. The River Rock at South Grove, thank the Lord, is gone.
I'm sorry, the what?
The River Rock all around the building, that most of it ended up out in the parking lot.
Gotcha.
It's gone, that's been replaced with mulch. It's a good move. The HVAC project that is the current music room and those 4 rooms that used to be the gym at South Grove, that unit on top of there was never changed. So it was the same unit that was heating and cooling the gym there. And when did we do that? 2001, I think. So it was overdue. Should be done with that project next week. And some other odds and ends that if you have any questions in my update, you can ask me about. The other thing is a motion that was in your board packet. Misty and her crew, as well as me, Mr. Mann, have reworked our guidelines and procedures for our buses. They were a little outdated as well as out of alignment with what happens in our schools. So they're now better aligned with what happens in schools with a focus on communications. Some piece of communication always got left out in our current system, whether it was the school not getting notified or the parent not getting notified promptly or transportation being totally left out. So that was a real focus of why we kind of revamped that. So there's a motion on there, Madam President.
Full second.
A second.
April, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Did we ever get all of our buses online with the tracking system?
So what isn't in here is we have upgraded our Versatrans, which is that online tracking and MyStop. Again, what we currently have is many, many years old. It lives here, and Tim has to maintain it. We're upgrading, which will be complete probably by Christmas of '23, up into the cloud. It won't be a headache for Tim. It'll be current and more user-friendly, I believe. So the answer to your question is yes.
You happy with that, Tim?
That's great. Okay, we're going to do a duel here. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes of May 9th and the claims of May 9th?
Rob?
Rob, second?
April.
April, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, other business. Oh, motion to approve the donations. Oh, gosh, we got a couple good ones.
Yeah.
Quite generous donation.
Yeah, no kidding. That was really nice. Who would make a motion to approve those?
I will make a motion to approve those donations. I'll second.
Tara, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we need to approve the fundraiser. Oh,
South Grove's on point.
Yes.
They are, but we had asked for those to be put online so they could enter them, so we don't have to read their little printing
Yeah,
thing.
we're
Could
not
we get
there
that
yet.
bit?
Yeah,
Okay.
We're not
I'll
there
make a
yet.
motion to
But
approve
we've
the
got that on
fundraiser
our
request.
radar.
Thanks, Rick. Who would second, please?
second it.
Jill, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the field trips.
There's a correction on the field trip I just noticed. It's got the cheerleading camp, June 10th through June 13th. That camp is actually July
Oh.
10th through July
Yes,
13th.
otherwise it's already occurred.
Correct. I literally texted my wife and said, because I've been so busy, I said,
Did we miss it?
Did we miss
Did
it?
Tay go to cheer camp? She goes, next month. I said, "Thank God."
That's so cute.
Who will approve the field trip as well as the change to date?
I'll motion to approve the field trips.
I'll second.
April? Rob, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Jill, C9 update.
C9 budget passed.
Yay.
The outlier schools appreciated the flexibility of the C9 board.
No
and-
arguing?
No.
Oh, that's good.
They sucked it up and decided that they were okay with it was
Good.
presented, and it went really well, so that was good. And the other schools appreciated flexibility, and it actually turned out really well. So we were pleased that it was approved. We are working towards doing the superintendent, Dr. Kovach's annual review, as we always do at this time of year, and they messed up on the concrete pours,
Oh,
so
no.
they're pounding that back out and
Oh, gosh.
re-pouring them. I tell ya, Lancer and BB is about the same with performance services in my book at this point in time. So I will consider myself a lucky lady if I never have to do a construction project as a board member again.
However, I will give Performance Services one little kudo because of the donation they
Very
made.
nice.
Yes.
Oh, that one, yes.
Very nice.
So that's all with, and they gave me a beautiful spider plant. So if anybody needs any spider plant,
Oh, nice.
spider growths to propagate, let me know.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay, I think that's it. No comments? Good, good, good. We need a motion to adjourn?
I'll make said motion.
I will make a board comment, if I may, please.
Sure.
I just want to give high five to David Odom today. We directed him to the IBEW Electrical Union.
Awesome.
So he's got signed up for that, 2023 graduate, great kid.
Yes.
Taught me a lot about life, that's for sure. And this Saturday is the championship games at the Little League. Get out and have some hot dogs and ribeye.
Oh, my gosh.
That's it. Thank you, sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. That's a success story.
So who's going to make that motion to adjourn?
Oh, that was Tara.
Oh, that was Tara. And who would second it then?
I'll second it. Rick can second it. I just was waiting.
Okay. Okay, Jill, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good night, everyone. Thank
We're
you.
super